Okay, welcome back. Take a great posture, best posture of the day, even better, and then let go of the rigidity and breathe, and then give it away. So if this is your first video or podcast with us, we like to start with a bow, end with a bow of respect and friendliness to one another and everyone all over the world, inside and outside of any choir we've ever known. Today I wanted to talk about, based on an audience request, grief. So in the comments, in the reviews, you can always ask for me to talk about anything. And they aren't just the brilliant thoughts of Waylon Lewis, which frankly don't exist. I haven't had any brilliant thoughts. My thoughts usually consist of where to go to lunch. But they're me relating my experience and my study of the Buddha Dharma and trying to share some actual helpful truth that isn't about me. So today we're going to talk about grief. I want to start by acknowledging and thanking our sponsor, Aspiration. They're an ethical alternative to your bank, so you can take your money and put it over here into aspiration.com and they will do good with it. They are for real, and I'm really honored to get to work with them. When you support aspiration.com, you're supporting our podcast and video series doing more, and they give you 2% on your savings and free ATM use all over the world. So if you like to travel, that enough right there is a reason to open an account. All right, so thank you to Aspiration. So grief, this is a subject that, I think we all care about because we all go through it, whether we like it or more likely not. And it's a serious subject. It's one that I have some hesitation to talk about because I feel like I'm kind of getting into your business, you know what I mean? So, but we all go through grief, so let's talk about it. So I researched a little bit in terms of the Buddhist teachings around grief. And you're not going to like it, but you're going to love it. So the part you're not going to like is that basically the good news is the bad news, which is that you can let go of it. The bad news about that is that letting go of something that we hold very dear and tightly and it becomes a large part of our identity, being told to let go of that or that it's okay to let go of it can feel very insulting. Trungpa Rinpoche, the Buddhist teacher, has a quote that says, "Enlightenment is ego's ultimate insult." Something like that, or the ultimate insult to ego. So, this morning I was going for a half-hearted run, preparing for the Boulder. I'm wearing my running shorts, my running shoes, and somehow I still hated it. And I'm walking along, At some point I'm walking along, taking a little break, I guess, because I'm on Mapleton Hill and everything's beautiful and it's a spring day and it's cool. And this very troubled, neurotic dog jumps out from nowhere and it's on a leash and it lunges at me, growling and trying to attack me. And I go from everything is beautiful and I'm so relaxed and I'm thinking about whatever to whoa, and that's what enlightenment feels like. It's a slap in the face. And the great thing is, instead of yelling at the dog or being angry that I was so disturbed and shocked, God damn it, get your dog inside! That dog was definitely not a well dog. I immediately thought of, and this is the great thing about Dharma teachings, is your mind goes there. I thought of the fly in Zen mind, beginner's mind, which is the symbol of enlightenment. So that which wakes us up or bothers us, drives us crazy, is actually waking us up out of our thoughts. And I was just walking along on Mapleton Hill, having a nice little time, lost in my mind probably. Maybe I was in the present moment, but when you're fully in the present moment, you don't succumb to jump scares like that. If you're fully awake in Zombieland in Walking Dead and a zombie jumps out, it's just another present moment. You're oh, here's a zombie. Bash him over the head with a chair and run, But if you're kind of you're caught up in your stuff, and you're stuck, the jump scare is going to get you. So, anyway, that's almost a different subject, how to relate to being shocked or surprised from a present moment point of view. Like the last couple nights I've had a leak in one of my skylights. So I had put plants in my bed. And the plants, I'm such an eco boy, even at night, I'm catching the drops of the water in my plants in my bed, which is a very odd scene. And it bothers me, but it's just what's happening, right? So that's what I have to remember, is getting bothered is kind of just what's happening. And I think parents are the gurus of that. They get bothered all the time, and at some point they're just like, this is my life now. So in terms of grief, what's the connection of all that to grief? Where was I going with all that? You don't know?
Present and letting go.
I really haven't made the connection, so how could Vanessa know? She's a helpless producer at this point. This show's going off the rails. Okay, so grief. So, yeah, I don't know the connection there, but eventually I'll discover it. So, grief is a solid thing. We have love for someone, we have love for something, we have love for a time in our life when we were happy, and we miss it, and we miss it so much, and we're heartbroken about that. And heartbreak is beautiful. Trungpa Rinpoche says we should be heartbroken every day of our lives, always. The other day I went to this farming movie, and I was heartbroken throughout that movie, and it was really painful. But it was also a very cheerful movie in a lot of ways. It was beautiful, and it was cheerful, and it was heartbreaking, and it was awful. Had all that death and life and love all wrapped up into one. And I really thought, wow, this is the state you're supposed to be in your whole life from a Buddhist point of view. That's tough. Like, being brokenhearted is not for the faint of heart, ironically. Being vulnerable is much harder than being macho. So grief from that point of view is a wonderful experience. You're soft, you're missing someone or something or a time in your life. But then grief kind of connotes something a little bit different, that you're solidifying the brokenheartedness, or I'm solidifying the brokenheartedness into a kind of solid world, a new world of grief, where you can just swim around and kind of drown and get lost. And that's why I think this reader asked me to talk about grief from a Buddhist point of view. So, from a Buddhist point of view, and I think you're gonna not necessarily love it, we have to let go. And how do you let go? And why do you let go? So you let go, first of all, like in the Buddhist funeral called Sukhavati, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, but that's how we've said in the American Buddhist community all our lives. Sukhavati. We actually have a picture of the loved one who has passed away, and at the end of the ceremony we burn it and we chant kind of a letting go reminder as it burns. And obviously that's symbolic of, like, they're gone. But the whole ceremony, and this is key, is for us. It's not for them. It's for us to let go. It's said that our attachment to them is actually holding them back from transitioning. And personally, I don't invest much in thoughts about the afterlife or any of that, so who knows? But as Vanessa was pointing out, our producer over here, we all know that when you're with someone who is dying and they're still alive, if you're attached to them and you're not helping them. They might appreciate that you love them in your brokenheartedness, and I'm certainly not making fun of it in the voice I just did. I was trying to feel it, but you're not helping them necessarily. What helps is to say, do you remember? Tell me a story when you were in second grade. Tell me a story about the 1950s. Tell me a story about how you got your college degree or when you fell in love. Tell me a story. Like, help them remember and appreciate their life and all that they've been through and their challenges, and wish them love and surround them with love, and surround them with some beautiful plants, and hopefully they don't have to die in a beige hotel room, and if it is beige, try to bring some life into it. And I think the cliche of the Irish funeral, or what do you call it, wake, is actually really beautiful. You're there to celebrate their life, not kind of just indulge in this solid black grief that you see in every Batman movie in the funeral scene. There's something dignified about that, but there's also something too solid about it. Life is death, right? We all know death is a part of life, and it's just part of it. Everything that lives goes through its cycle. So death is not bad news. It's not news at all. It's part of the package. I'm going to die. You're going to die. Most people you see every day in the world, if they're younger than you, they'll live in a world without you. And if they're older than you, they'll live in you're going to be walking around the street and they'll be dead pretty soon. We all have those feelings when we look at old photographs, like, oh, all these people are dead. And that's okay. The Buddha, when he was a prince, before he was the Buddha, escaped the walls of his palace where he had been constrained his whole life because his father didn't want him to see suffering. Like most parents, he wanted to protect his kid. And the Buddha ran out, and one night he saw an aging man and a dying man or a woman, and he was shocked. He was like, what is this? People get old, people die, what is this thing? And instead of viewing it just as bad news, he was shocked and he was angry at his king father, and he said, I want to leave, I want to live in reality. And that's where we want to be. So I think, the way we let go is to come back to basic goodness, which is you are fundamentally good beneath all the clouds of the pain of pain, as they say in Buddhism. So life is painful, loss is painful, heartbreak is painful, but then we solidify it, we double down, we trip out, understandably, on that pain, and then we enjoy or suffer the pain of pain. That's different, and it's not necessarily about them. So if your friend or your loved one or your family member or your relationship ends, it doesn't have to be death, of course. Grief could be actually more about us, more about me, than about what I'm grieving. And while that feels insulting, it's actually good news. It means that if we want to honor them fully, we can just be brokenhearted simply, but be raw and open and celebrate their life and celebrate, or if it's a relationship that passed, remember the good times, remember how you fell in love, and remember that you'll actually be okay. When we are brokenhearted, we often solidify it, get depressed, and what do we start saying in our minds? We start saying, I'm never going to find someone. Every time I go to Ebongee Fine Park, all I see is happy couples on their picnic blankets. Why not me? What's wrong with me? And that whole thing is totally sympathetic. Like, we all feel that. But it's extra. It's not really honoring the relationship. Honoring the relationship would be remembering the good times and learning from the hard times and the bad times and trying to just go forward. And we're all fundamentally lonely to begin with. We're all alone, and that's not bad. We're fundamentally good. We're part of the general ecosystem of society. So I feel like we know all this, but the way you let go is to come back to remembering you're okay. Nothing's fundamentally wrong with you. You do have neuroses, you do have problems, you do have hang-ups, you do have habitual patterns, so do I, and we work with those through meditation, through study, through whatever, whatever works. Dance, therapy, hiking, whatever you want, as long as it works and it helps and it's not hurting other people. So grief, like depression, and I'm not talking about clinical depression, everyday depression, human depression that we all go through, which used to be something that we could talk about openly, and now we always get a lot of angry comments from people saying, you can't do anything helpful about depression, it's just a clinical life situation. And while that may be true for clinical depression, all of us human beings go through depressed times, and that's different, and you can work with that. And I have blogs about that on elephantjournal.com, but basically, it comes down to Maitri, to being kind to yourself, often to getting offline, often to not indulging in negative habitual patterns, like eating 5 pints of Ben & Jerry's, hoping you'll just experience some pleasure and being able to cheer up. Getting outside is a big one. Nature is a big healer. Talking with friends is a big healer. So the good news about grief is we can let go. The way we let go is we come back to our fundamental goodness, to their fundamental goodness, and we realize that if you're hearing the garbage truck in the background, like the fly, like the angry dog, That's just a reminder of the present moment instead of my incessant talking. So, thank you so much. I hope there's been some grain of something in there. I'm sure I could have done a better job, but it's been real. And I'd like to thank our mindful sponsor who made this possible, aspiration.com. Please support them and make the world a kinder, better, greener place. Thank you so much. Take a great posture if you'd like, and join me in a bow. Thank you very much. Thank you.